Well, hello. We're here with one amazing staff member from Bear Cottage. Why don't you tell us about who you are and what you do here?
Hi Taz, I'm Claire and I'm the fundraising manager. My history with Bear Cottage goes back to 2007. I started my Bear Cottage journey as a volunteer working with G and the team on the play therapy team. And it was pretty evident from early on that Bear Cottage was just this magical place, and it, for me, has been the greatest privilege to be involved with so many families over the years.
Yeah. If you just talk about that privilege a little bit more, what's been, some of the more special things, the more remarkable things that have stuck with you over that time?
Um, Gosh, there are many. One standout for me was a family who arrived to Bear Cottage straight from Children's Hospital Westmead. It was 4 years ago, and I met the dad out in the corridor, and he had just literally got out of the lift area, and he was walking through the corridor, and I said, "Hello, welcome. How have you arrived at Bear Cottage?" And he said, "We've just come over from Children's Hospital at Westmead." And I said, "Is this what you were expecting?" And he said, "No." He said, "I really was under the impression we were going to some kind of a shack on the beach." And he said, "This isn't any shack on the beach." And his son, who was admitted for end of life care, when he came out of the lift in the wheelchair, he said to his dad, "I think I'm going to like it here." And that says an awful lot.
Wow, that's really special. And I think that's really what people don't expect. And certainly when I came here, I did think it was going to be completely different to what it is. How have you tried to make this a place that's special for kids?
Well, because it is so outside of the hospital environment, the staff don't wear uniforms. I recently found paperwork that was drawn up in 1995, when they were looking at what Bear Cottage, what the mission was and what it was going to look like as a facility. And the idea was that it would be as far away from the clinical experience as possible. Therefore, the staff still don't wear uniforms. It is really access all areas, and we're about making families feel like this is their home for as long as they are here with us. And sitting down at lunch, that's another lunch and dinner where we get to be together with the families. You hear families, friendships starting over lunch, or even in the tea room. So there are lovely little support networks that come out of Bear Cottage, and for me it's the sum of all parts. There are so many cogs in place that keep Bear Cottage going, and if you pull one away, it won't be the same.
That's really interesting. And of course, no family pays to stay at Bear Cottage, do they?
No, and that was another part of the mission from the outset, is that families wouldn't. And the idea behind that came from, so Bear Cottage was the brainchild of Dr. John Yu, who was the chief executive of the Children's Hospital in the 1990s, and Dr. Michael Stevens, who is still an oncology paediatrician at the Children's Hospital at Westmead. They saw that there was such a need for a place like this to exist. Financial burdens are something that families can experience on top of their journey of their child through a terminal or life-limiting illness. Bear Cottage exists as a place where we extinguish that financial burden that you might have in other clinical settings. When they're here, we want them to concentrate on being with each other. When that's all they can concentrate on, they're fed. We make sure that the siblings are taken care of, and the psychosocial needs of the entire family are taken care of. So whatever we can do, we will do to work within the parameters of the parents and what they need.
It's just amazing work. How many children would you care and look after for, during a normal year?
It's about 250 people, so that's including patients and families. Since we opened our doors in 2001, we have cared for over 1,000 families. Putting that into perspective, it costs in the region of $10,000 a week for a family of 4 to stay, which means our operating costs per year are $4 million. Now, you've walked around the facility, Taz. You can see that this is it's a large facility to maintain. We're not because we are palliative, we're not curative. We need money to keep the facility maintained with we're not like the hospital that we don't need equipment, we need money to keep the air conditioning on, to keep the lights on, and to make sure that the building is at its very best for every family that comes in here, because that's what they deserve.
Yeah. And of course you run pretty much entirely on donations. How important is a donor and a fundraiser to Bear Cottage?
Well, there's over 56,000 not-for-profits in Australia. So donor recognition and the care of our donors is something that we take very seriously, because every donor, be it a corporate, a community group or a private individual, everybody that gives us money, they can go to any not-for-profit that they want. So we greatly value our donors. And the beautiful thing is that with a lot of donors, they do have a personal connection to Bear Cottage, and I will always try to establish that early on. What is the connection, and make sure that we work within their parameters. You've got some donors who don't want to be recognised at all, and others who do. So we very much work with the wants and needs of the donors, as we do with our families. We're all part of the invisible string that binds Bear Cottage together, and there are so many individual stories behind donations. And it's lovely to be able to put that together and see us all as a very working community organisation to ensure families are cared for.
It's just one of the most remarkable places that I've really ever experienced. Just finally, what's the most special thing that you've seen in Bear Cottage over all your time? You've been here as a volunteer and and now as in fundraising and such a pivotal role to Bear Cottage. What's been the thing that's stuck with you over all those times that you'll never forget?
I guess the standout for me is how we can offer respite and end-of-life care. The staff here are the most highly skilled, empathetic, caring people I've ever had the great privilege to work with. And you can see that especially when we have a family who are in for end-of-life care, and how, for me, it's incredible that the house keeps operating, but the bereaved family are blanketed and wrapped in this great blanket of love and support, and it's the care in which that is done. It's exceptional, and it's very difficult to put it into context until you see it happening, and I've got the great privilege to see it happening because we work so closely with the families. Even though I work in fundraising, the great thing is to have that connection with the families. So I always encourage donors before when they inquire about Bear Cottage, you can talk about it, you can write about it, but I think you'll agree that when you come here, it's the environment, and it's that sense of love and belonging. So that for me is the standout.
Well, thanks, Claire. Thanks so much for your time and coming to see us, and thanks for the incredible work that you and Bear Cottage do.
And thank you, Taz. You're all part of the love that we provide, so thank you very much for your fundraising.
You're welcome.